Like you can't see that you put a 1.
I'm sorry.
That is an error on your part.
All right, let's go ahead. Listen up. All right. Wes, Rowan, go ahead and sit down for me. You guys haven't sat down yet. We're 10 minutes into class. All right. All right, listen. That means stop talking. Sit down. Okay, today we're going to talk about 4.5 and triangle congruence. Okay, we got about 3 more sections of this chapter. All right, and it's all going to revolve around triangle congruence. Okay, so you really have to listen today so you know what's going on for the rest of them. Okay, because today we're going to be talking about triangles and how to prove that they're congruent. And this is going to go into your guys' favorite thing. We're going to have some proofs with these. I know, woo! I know you guys are happy. I promise, these proofs can be really simple, okay, if you just focus on what we're looking at today, okay? Because what we're looking at today, if you really understand this, then we can do those next steps, all right? And it will look a lot easier than what we have done with our statements and reasons, okay? It's kind of into boxes, and you'll be able to see an example later on why these can be easier, okay, if you just pay attention, okay? Now, with triangle congruence, okay, what we're doing is we're proving that 2 triangles are congruent based on their sides and angles. I'm going to start with these 2 triangles first. Okay, and I'm going to mark the angles right now, okay? So if I look at these 2 triangles, like what angle can I say is congruent to angle A? What? R. Because it just has one congruent symbol. What about angle C? T, okay? And then B, S, okay? Now I'm also going to show these where I have my sides, okay? All right, and then this is showing sides, so it has to have that same number of like congruent marks or congruent ticks or congruent angles in order for us to tell which sides and which angles are congruent. So if I said what side is congruent to ST, what would that be? BC, okay? Now, with triangles, okay, I want to say that these 2 triangles are congruent, okay? But you have to pay attention to the order of your letters when you're saying they're congruent. So let's say I want to say that these 2 triangles are congruent, and I'm saying triangle ABC is congruent to triangle, and I want to say the other triangle, but it all depends on my letters here. And I have to put that in the correct order. Now, what angle, if A is the first letter, what angle do we say is congruent to A? R. So R will be my first letter. Now, what do we say? What angle? B is our second letter. What angle is congruent to B? S. So what does that leave us with? T. Okay, now when we look at this, all right, and we just talked about the way it works for angles. Now, if we look at this, AB, side AB is also congruent to side RS. All right, BC is congruent to ST. All right, and then the first and last letter, so AC, that side is congruent to RT. Okay, so you see how it follows that those letters are in that correct order, and that tells us how those 2 triangles are congruent. Okay, because if we're just given this, then we can draw these triangles. All right, based on that order of the letters. Okay. I'm going to say I have triangle, let's say DEF, and it is congruent to triangle JKL. Draw those two triangles for me. All right, and use it based on those correct letters. All right, and follow that correct order. So go ahead and do that for me. And write that in your notes. Okay, now I have these two triangles. Now, by looking at the letters, okay, what angle am I going to say is congruent to angle D? J. Okay, what about K? E. And then finally F? L. All right, now what side am I going to say is congruent to DF? What? JL. What about EF? KL. And then finally DE? JK. Okay. Now your marks might be a little different. Maybe you just had, your DE just had 1, all right, and your JK was just 1. Okay, that's the same thing. It's still saying that they're congruent. Okay? Do we have questions about this? Okay. So now we're going to go, and now that we know how we have to follow that, now we're going to talk about the 5 ways we can prove a triangle is congruent. Okay. Here are the 5 ways we can prove a triangle is congruent based on its sides and its angles. Here's going to be my first one. If I have 2 triangles, okay, where I am given that all 3 sides are congruent, okay, this is going to be called SSS. All right, what do we think the S stands for? Just side. It's going to be called side, side, side. If we have 3 congruent sides, we can say this triangle is congruent. Because if these 3 sides are congruent, then the 3 angles are also going to be congruent. Okay? So that's called side, side, side. All right? Let's say, now I got these 2 triangles. And let's say I have something that looks like this. Okay? We want to follow the order of our sides and angles. Okay? This time I have 2 sides, 1 angle, and that angle is in between those 2 congruent sides. This is going to be called SAS. Okay? Know it as SAS, not SAS. All right? Side, angle, side. Okay? Side, angle, side. That's another way we can prove that these 2 triangles are congruent. So side, angle, side. The angle has to be in between those 2 congruent sides. So if we're just given this, we can prove that the whole triangles are congruent. Let's look at this one. What do we think this one's going to be named? ASA. Angle, side, angle. Perfect. Oh my gosh, that triangle is not congruent at all. Okay. This one is going to be a little different from the others just because this one's going to be angle, angle, side. Okay. So this one, it's not side, angle, angle, it's angle, angle, side. So if you have two angles and then a side, okay, that's angle, angle, side. Not side, angle, 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 side. Okay. There's 4 of the 5, and we got one last one. All right, and before you ask, no, there is no ASS. So don't ever put that on your test because someone always manages to put it on their test. So don't be that person. Okay, I'll put a big frowny face next to it. Maybe subtract more points. Because it's not an option. Anyways, we have this last one. All right. Anyone have an idea of maybe what this one is? No, there is no side angle. Okay, you guys did figure out this is a right triangle. Okay, obviously it's HL. You guys should have known that. HL. No. It's called, he said height length. No. It's called hypotenuse leg. Leg. Yeah, leg. Like you got 2 of them, yes. Now, oh, that was my H. Hypotenuse leg, I spelled that one. Hopefully you know how to spell angles and sides. I'm not going to spell those out for you. Okay, but this is hypotenuse leg, so I want you to pay attention to this one, okay? Hypotenuse leg only works on right triangles, okay? But you have to pay attention to this part, okay? The hypotenuse is that diagonal line. It is the side that's directly opposite from that 90-degree angle. That's the hypotenuse. Our legs are the sides that are like connected to the 90-degree angle, okay? So a hypotenuse leg has 2 legs. Just one of them has to be congruent, and the hypotenuse needs to be congruent. Okay? Does that make sense? And that's our last one. These are the only 5 ways we can prove a triangle is congruent. Okay, these are the only 5. Okay? This is what we're going to be working on with those proofs, where all our reasons at the end are these 5. Okay? So like if you think about it, when we had proofs and we had our last statement or our last reason, this would be like our last reason for all of them. One of these 5. Okay? So that we're going to have to prove why some angles are congruent, why some sides are congruent, to eventually get to one of these triangle congruents. Okay? Let's look at some examples. No. You guys had plenty of time. Sorry. You have no idea what the answers are. Yes. I think they're pretty easy. Oh my gosh. I know. My zoom. It's really hard to zoom in and out on this thing because now I can't even zoom out. Oh, and it went back to where it was. All right, anyways, that didn't really help much, but that's fine. I haven't asked yet, and that's not a thing. So, for these, we need to determine the relationship. All right, listen. Listen. We need to determine... put it away.
I need to write the triangles down.
Well, we'll talk about them. You can see them all right here. So close your computer. Close it. Okay? Now, we have to determine the relationship between the two triangles and whether or not they can be proven congruent. If we look at these two triangles right here, okay, go ahead and raise your hand if you can tell me what kind of triangle congruence this would be. No, we're not saying SAS. Side, angle, side.
At least you didn't say the one you're not.
That's fine. Okay. Now that we know it's side, angle, side, all right, because that angle is in between the two sides, okay, can this be proven congruent or can it not? Is it one of the 5 we talked about? Then it can. Then can is correct. Okay? Let's go to this one. Raise your hand if you think you know the answer to this one.
Side angle.
Thank you for raising your hand.
We were talking to each
Okay.
other.
No, you weren't. Angle, side angle. Is that one of the 5 we talked about? So can or cannot be proven congruent? It can. No. All right. Who can tell me what they think this one is?
Angle.
What are we told it's congruent here? All the angles, okay? Angle, angle, angle. Did we talk about this? No. So can it or cannot? Cannot. Well, why? That's a good question. Let me explain why. Why? Okay. Now, here's why angle, angle, angle does not work. Now, do you guys remember the dilations in chapter 3? When we were making the shapes smaller, the shapes bigger?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when we have those shapes, if we have a triangle, all right, and we have a triangle and we enlarge it, okay, the sides get bigger, but the angles stay the same. So anytime you do a dilation, those angles stay the same no matter what. So if we are given all the angles are congruent, can we prove that all the sides are the same? No. We'll be able to tell which side is the biggest because of the value that we learned earlier this chapter. Okay, but we can't prove the sides. Okay, so this is why this one does not work. Okay, so it does not. There's no angle, angle, angle.
Is that a different question that you guys
Those are just like the multiple choice. You're given the options.
But it says it has angle down.
I know. We had to put that answer still. But we say it cannot. Because that's not one. All right, raise your hand. Wes, can you tell me this one?
Yep, that one is SSS.
Which it means? Side, side, side. Can or cannot, Rowan? Side, side, side.
Yeah.
Are you Rowan? It can. Okay. Because this is one of the ones we talked about. All right, let's look at a couple more. Close your eyes for a second. Yeah, the answers are on there. I don't want you to see them. Okay, now you have no idea what they were. Okay, let's look at number 5. Who can tell me what they got? Yeah, Graham? Hey, you said SSA? Okay, it's SSA. Can or cannot, Graham? Let's retry that. What did you say after can? That's what I thought. These cannot. Okay, because if you look at SSA and flip those letters, what do we say about that one? Never write that. Don't write that. No, this is not SAS. Huh? No, you can write SSA because that's an option down here, but it's just cannot. Just never, we'll like barely see this again. Barely.
Why would it be Why not that I said I put that? Why can't it be angle side sided? Why does it have to be side sided?
It doesn't matter. It's cannot any ways.
So
Yeah, that's right.
Never put that.
Wait.
It is technically an answer.
I know, that's why you put cannot. That's not one of the five.
So it technically works as the other one as A.
No, it doesn't work. That's the same thing as this. But that's not one of the options. All right, let's look at the next one, okay? What kind of triangles are these? Okay. No, they are right triangles. Which triangle congruence is this? Is it hypotenuse leg?
Yes.
It's not. It's not. Why is it not, Colton? Listen to Colton. Yeah, we're not told the hypotenuse is congruent. We're told the two legs are. So which one would this be then, Colton? You're not Colton. No, which of these triangle congruents?
Side angle side.
Side angle side. So can these or can they not?
Can.
They can. All right? So pay attention to this one, okay? The diagonal line, the hypotenuse is not congruent, so that's why it's not HL.
What do you mean?
No.
Does it usually have like a little angle over it or something to make it for us?
Let's look at the next two. What about 6?
6 is hypotenuse leg.
Lila, put it away.
How do you know it's hypotenuse?
Because the hypotenuse is congruent.
It's not like they're not sandwiched together. They're like separate.
All right, Wes, sit down. All right, Ben, what's this one? Number 8. So can they or can they not?
They can. Oh, wait.
They cannot.
Yes.
All right, do we have questions about those? No, that's not it. We're not done. Thank you. Now, here, all right, here is just an example of kind of what our proofs are going to look like. Now, this isn't really a proof, okay? But when we work with proofs, they're going to be flowchart proofs, okay, where it's going to help us get these steps to our final answer, okay? Now, let's look at this one first, okay? All right, Ben, Wes, stop talking, okay? Now, when we're looking at this, okay, let's look at these two images right here, all right? What triangle congruence are these two triangles going to be? ASA. So are they or are they not congruent? They are. So the first thing I need to do is circle R. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to do right away. I just said it's ASA, okay? So I'm going to put that as my final reason down here. All right? So my final reason is we need to eventually get it to angle side angle. We need to fill in these boxes now. What we're going to do in these boxes is we're going to prove what angles are congruent to what other angle and what sides are congruent to which other side. Okay? Now, here's what you have to pay attention to. We just said it's angle side angle. So that's the order we need to do these boxes. So this first box needs to be an angle. The second box needs to be a side. Third box needs to be an angle because it's angle, side, angle. Okay? Now, for the first one, who can tell me if I have angle A, what is angle A going to be congruent to? Angle O. So that's what we put in this one. Now, what two sides are congruent? AC is congruent to what? It has to be OM. You have to follow that order. Because angle A and O are congruent. Angle C and M are congruent. So finally, our last two angles. Who can tell me what our last two angles are? Angle. Okay, perfect. Now that we did that, we have to say what two triangles are congruent. So I'm going to say triangle ABC is congruent to, I have to follow the correct order. What would it be? ONM. Because A and O are congruent, B and N would be the same, and C and M. Okay? That's why we did that part at the beginning. All right, let's look at the next one. What would this be an example of? No. Say it the other way. SSA. Are these or are they not congruent? They are not. All right, listen. If they are not, do not fill these out. You just circle are not and you move on. Okay, Lila, I will tell you when you can open that. All right? So, that's when you do are not. Now, I want you to pay attention. I didn't have an example of hypotenuse leg on here, okay? But if you look at hypotenuse leg, it just has two letters. So, like, how do you follow the boxes, okay? When you do hypotenuse leg, on one of the examples or one of the answers that you can select is saying something about them being right angles. So you would just have to name those right angles or say it's a right triangle. Okay? So that's what you would do on those HL, those hypotenuse leg ones. All right? But make sure you follow those letters correctly. So if it's, I think I had one more example. If this one, all right, what would this be an example of? What? Angle, angle, side. So when we do this one, put angle, angle, side as your reason. You have to make sure you do angle, angle, side. Now, on this one, you have to be specific on which angle you put first. You have to follow it in order of the triangle. Now, can I start with angle K is congruent to angle A? No, because that's not the first angle. You need to go angle, angle, side. If you start here, all right, you can't go to this angle and then to this side. What? This is the only trickle one because it's only angle, angle, side. You will never have side angle, angle. If it's side angle, angle, then just flip it. It's angle, angle, side. Okay? Now, I will give you the rest of class to work on this. All right? And this is just what you have to work on tomorrow for those of you not going on the retreat. All right? We will get more into this on Wednesday. What?